The Senate will come to order. Mr. Carpenter, please call the roll.
Senators Aguilar. Aguilar.
Absent.
Baumgardner. Cook. Coram. Court. Crowder. Donovan. Finberg. Fields. Garcia. Gardner. Guzman. Hill. Holbert. John. Jones. Kagan. Kafalas. Kerr. Lambert. Lundberg. Marble. Martinez-Humenick. Merrifield.
Excused.
Moreno. Neville. Briola. Scott. Smallwood. Sonnenberg. Tate. Todd. Williams. Zinzinger.
Let's roll.
Mr. President.
Here. 33 present, 1 absent, 1 excused. We have a quorum. Senator Smallwood, would you please come and lead us in the pledge?
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, friends, guests, those in the gallery, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approval of the journal, Senator Priola. Senator Tate.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the reading of the Journal of Friday, March 16th be dispensed with and it be approved as amended by the Secretary of the Senate.
You have heard the motion. Is there any objection? Seeing none, the motion is adopted. Please add Senator Aguilar to the roll. Committee reports.
March 15, 2018, the Committee on Education has had on consideration a hearing with following appointments and recommends the appointments to place in the consent calendar confirmed member of the Private Occupational School Board for a term expiring July 1st, 2018. Abbas Richard Bebehane of Arvada, Colorado, to serve as representative of the general public who is employed by a lending institution located in Colorado, is familiar with the Colorado College Access Network and occasioned by the resignation of Joseph James Wolf of Arvada, Colorado, appointed. March 15, 2018, Committee on Education, after consideration of the Mayor's Committee acts following, House Bill 1228 be referred to committee to hold the favorable recommendation be placed on the consent calendar.
Senate Services.
Correctly enrolled, Senate Bill 74, 134, and 165, Senate Resolution 2.
Message from the House.
The House has passed on third reading and returns here with Senate Bill 74, 134, 165. The House has passed on third reading and transmitted the revised statute Senate Bill 2. Minute is printed in the House Journal March 15, 2018. The House has passed on third reading and transmitted the revised statutes House Bill 1254. Minute is printed in the House Journal March 15, 2018.
Message from the Reviser.
We herewith transmit without comment as amended House Bill 1254, without comment as amended Senate Bill 2.
Representative Arndt will be added as the prime sponsor on Senate Bill 187, and Representative Carver will be added as the prime sponsor on Senate Bill 119. Third reading of bills, consent calendar. Mr. Carpenter, would you please read all the titles to the bills on the third reading of bills consent calendar?
Senate Bill 183 by Senator Tate and Representatives Arndt and Liston, concerning authorizing agents of insurers to access the electronic system that ensures access for owner and lien holder information of a motor vehicle. Senate Bill 187 by Senators Marble and Tate and Representative Arndt, concerning transferring marijuana fibrous waste for the purpose of producing industrial fiber products. Senate Bill 195 by Senator Moreno and Representative Rankin, concerning a requirement that the money in the Health Care Affordability and Sustainability Fee Cash Fund be appropriated annually rather than continuously appropriated. Senate Bill 119 by Senator Gardner and Representative Carver, concerning false imprisonment of a minor and in connection therewith making an appropriation.
Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the four bills listed on a third reading of bills consent calendar, Senate Bills 183, 187, 195, and 119.
Is there any discussion on any of the bills on the third reading of bills consent calendar? Majority Leader Holbert.
Thank you, Mr. President. One point of clarification on the calendar, Senate Bill 119 still listed as not having a representative, a House sponsor. It does. That is Representative Carver.
As 187, I already made that announcement, Mr. Majority Leader. Is there any discussion on any of the bills on the consent calendar? The motion is for the adoption of all the bills on the third reading of bills consent calendar. Are there any no votes on any of the bills? With 34 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 1 excused, Senate Bill 183 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Senator Moreno. With 34 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 1 excused, Senate Bill 187 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Senator Moreno, Senator Kafalas, Senator Fenberg, Senator Crowder, Senator Martinez-Humenick, Senator Neville, Senator Court, Senator Todd, Senator Aguilar, Senator Kerr, Senator John, Senator Garcia, Senator Fields, Senator Coram, with 34 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 1 excused, Senate Bill 195 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Senator Crowder. Senator Tate. Senator Martinez-Humenick. With 34 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 1 excused, Senate Bill 119 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Senator Crowder. Senator Aguilar. Senator Lambert. Senator Coram, Senator Martinez-Humenick, Senator Garcia, Senator Court, Senator Todd, Senator Kafalas, Senator John, Senator Tate, General Order, second reading of bills. Consent calendar. Senator Cook.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole for second reading of bills consent calendar.
Motion before the body is for the Senate to resolve itself from the Committee of the Whole for consideration of the General Order second reading of bills consent calendar. All those in favor say aye. All opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the Senate will resolve itself from the Committee of the Whole for consideration of the General Order second reading of bills consent calendar. Senator Cook will take the chair.
Thank you, Mr. President. Committee will come to order. The court rule is relaxed. Will the clerk please read the title to all the bill on the General Order second reading consent calendar?
House Bill 1025 by Representative Harrod and Senators Cook and Gardner concerning the non-substantive relocation of laws related to the regulation of alcohol beverages from Title 12 Colorado Revised Statutes to a new Title 44 as part of the organizational recodification of Title 12 in connection therewith, making an appropriation.
Majority Leader Holbert.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move the one bill listed on the General Order second reading of bills consent calendar, House Bill 1025. There is no committee report.
Motion for the body is the adoption of House Bill 1025. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it, and 1025 is adopted. Majority Leader Holbert.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move the committee rise and report.
Motion for the body is to rise and report. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. The committee will rise and report.
Senate will come back to order. Senator Cook.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your committee has met and had a bill under consideration. Will the clerk please read the report?
Mr. President, your committee will hold lead reports out in consideration of the following test bills being second reading thereof, makes the following recommendation around House Bill 1025 pass second reading order revised place on the calendar for third reading and final passage.
Senator Cook.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of the report.
Motion for the body is the adoption of the report to the Committee of the Whole. Are there any no votes? With 34 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 1 excused, the Committee of the Whole report is adopted. House Bill 1025 passed on second reading, order revised and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. General Order second reading of bills. Senator Cook.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole for second reading of bills calendar.
Bills before the body is for the Senate to resolve itself in the Committee of the Whole for consideration of the General Order second reading of bills consent calendar, or General Order second reading of bills calendar. All those in favor say aye. All opposed, no. Ayes have it, and the Senate will resolve itself in the Committee of the Whole for consideration of the General Order second reading of bills calendar. Senator Cook will take the chair.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee will come back to order. The court rule is relaxed. Majority Leader Holbert.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At the sponsor's request, I move to lay over Senate Bill 43 to Monday, March 26th.
Motion for the body is to move Senate Bill 43 to March 26. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. And Senate Bill 43 is moved to March 26. Well, the clerk, please read the title to Senate Bill 196.
Senate Bill 196 by Senators Neville and Lundberg and Representative Ransom concerning the repeal of the late vehicle registration fee.
Senator Lundberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Senate Bill 196 and the Appropriations Committee report.
To the Appropriations Committee report.
The Appropriations Committee report. Oh, there is none. I do not move the Appropriations Committee report.
Okay, that is withdrawn then. To the bill. Senator Neville.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Colleagues, Senate Bill 196 concerning the repeal of the late vehicle registration fee. The bill itself, the biggest impact of this, colleagues, we have an issue in Colorado with the people that can least afford it are actually being hurt by this bill, or excuse me, by this fee. This is the only, state of Colorado is the only state in the region that has such an egregious late vehicle fee that hurts working class Coloradans. These fees unnecessarily take away Coloradans' hard-earned money. In addition to these fees, one must also take his or her vehicle in for an admissions test, which costs an additional $25. So if you're familiar with this, you get a fee assessed against you if you miss your vehicle registration date. Many people miss that for a variety of reasons. Some people have a situation where they may have their vehicle out of commission. They may have it getting repairs. They may have it off the road for an extended period of time. All of those, if they brought that vehicle on the road without getting their registration fee, of course, they would be subject to major fines and ticketing. So that's different from this. This requires $25 per month, not just the first month, but then another $25, and then another $25, and then another $25. So people that are trying to get their vehicle back on the road are actually hit not one time, but possibly up to 4 times. It doesn't make a lot of sense. If you take a look and you look at the other policies of the states around us, they're definitely much more forgiving. They understand that it's important to get those vehicles registered and get them back on the road so that people can actually do what they need to do. Colleagues, I urge an aye vote on Senate Bill 196.
Senator Lundberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a little bit of history, I believe is appropriate here. Prior to this late vehicle registration fee, there was an optional fee that was allowed at the discretion of the clerk of $10 to encourage people to get it done quickly. And different clerks had different policies as it fit for their individual counties. That was appropriate. But then it was really put in place not so much as an encouragement to register your vehicle as simply a way to raise cash. And it was not set up as a tax, even though it really is seen as a tax. And let me give you a story that I had back when this did occur. A gentleman called me. I remember it was shortly after the session had ended, so it was the summertime. And he said, I can ride my bike to work. He was up in the Fort Collins area. He said, I can ride my bike to work, and I'm doing that because I cannot afford to pay the vehicle registration fee. But I'm saving up, and I can save about $25 a month. But he said, the problem is, next month, I'm going to owe $25 more. And so he had to go through 4 months of saving up every dime he could just to register his vehicle. And that's the problem, is this is a regressive tax on the people of Colorado who can least afford it. That's why it's very appropriate to pass Senate Bill 196 and right this really wrong that was put on the people of Colorado. I urge its adoption. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Senator Kerr.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I rise in opposition to Senate Bill 196. A couple of reasons, but I am heartened to hear some of the reasoning behind this bill, and that's to help the people in Colorado who can least afford it. I think that's an important discussion to have. And when this bill was passed about 10 years ago, when the original FASTER bill was passed about 10 years ago, and really put money for the first time in a long time into roads and bridges, which is a word, or a couple of words we've heard a lot in the last week or so, roads and bridges. And I know in my district there are several bridges that have been rebuilt in the past decade, specifically because of the FASTER bill passing, and specifically because of the way it was structured and with the fees that were associated with it. The money from the FASTER fees went directly to rebuilding the Wadsworth 285 interchange, beautiful new bridge. Garrison and 6th Avenue, beautiful new bridge. That one was literally falling down, and chunks were falling off of it. So these bridges were built, and I'm sure there are lots of roads. I believe 6th Avenue, as you're coming east into Denver, that was all rebuilt using FASTER funds. But I agree with the sponsors of this bill that it is structured in an unfair way. That if someone is driving their $100,000 or more Tesla and they have to pay the $100 late fee if they're late for 4 months, that might be not too much of a burden on it, but somebody who is living paycheck to paycheck and gets behind a month or two, that it is more of a burden on them. It is a regressive fee. I disagree with the assertion that it's a tax, but I do see this as being a fee. And just like all of our bills that we pay, if you fall behind on your bills, if you fall behind on your credit card bill, they will tag on a late fee. So it's just as business is done in our country. So I was trying to think of what I should do this year when I saw this bill coming up, and how do we be fair to the people who can least afford this bill or that bill if they get that late bill, but still make sure that the folks who can afford it and are just putting it off just for whatever reason, they're deciding not to pay the fee.
There is an amendment on the desk. Will the clerk please read the title to L001?
Amendment L001, Senate Bill 196 by
Senator Kerr.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move L001.
The amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. L001 does exactly what the proponents of this Bill 196 are asking, and that is to be most fair to the people in Colorado who can least afford the late fees. And, everyone has reasons. Sometimes you get behind. I have forgotten, or a bill has slipped behind, and I've had to pay a bit of this late fee before myself, and I know that happens to all sorts of people. This will make sure that the folks who can least afford to pay the fee don't have to. But those folks who are driving some luxury vehicle and just for whatever reason, maybe they decide that they're going to make a point of not paying their late fee, they forget or whatever, but come on, if you're driving a car that's worth $100,000, you can probably afford $25 if you forget to pay for your tags. You can probably afford the $50, even all the way up to $100. So I'm asking that we adopt L001 to be fair to the people who can least afford this late fee. Thank
Senator
you.
Lundberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I don't see this as being a friendly amendment at all. It really turns the legislation on its head by making it some sort of a means test for the simple point of whether or not you were late with your registration or not. I will thoroughly agree that the person who is hurt the most is the one who's at the bottom of the rung, but in terms of equity, it should be open and available for all. Therefore, I would ask for a no vote on the amendment.
Senator Court.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, when we heard this in committee, a great deal of the sponsor's argument was that it unjustly impacts people of low income. And I think this is an excellent amendment to address that issue. If the issue is really, as the sponsors have said, to protect people of low income, then this completely does it. If the intent of the late fee is, as we know it always has been, to encourage people to do it on time, which that's the whole purpose, is to encourage people to do it on time, then I think having late fees in place makes sense. But I think recognizing that for some people this creates a hardship, I think we ought to look at that and recognize that maybe it's time to adjust the late fee for those of lower income. So I completely agree with this amendment. I think it's a great compromise to address the need to have the late fee so that we remind people to do it on time, but to protect people of lower income so that it doesn't impact them quite so heavily. So I urge a yes vote on Amendment 001.
Senator Fields.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I, too, rise in strong support of this amendment L001 because it is the fair and it's the right thing to do. Most of the people that I represent, their wages are stagnant. And sometimes they can't afford to register their vehicle because of some other kinds of emergencies that may have come up, and then they start racking up these fees. We should not be funding our roads and our bridges on the backs of poor people. We have a bill that we should be debating as it relates to funding transportation. We should not be doing it based on fees. So what this amendment will do, it will kind of recalibrate this fee structure so it's not punitive for poor people. So members, I urge you to vote yes on this amendment L001.
Senator Quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I understand what we're doing here. My concern, and I have a question for the sponsor, this is probably going to require a great deal of record keeping. So is that record keeping done by Department of Revenue, which would drive a fiscal note, or is it put on the backs of the counties?
Any further discussion? Senator Kerr.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd love to answer the question asked of me. And I believe the language in here says that the department may promulgate rules, so they may or may not. But I believe where it says require such proof of income as is reasonably necessary, I do believe that that would be something that would be done at the county level when somebody is actually registering their car. I think that's a good compromise. And one of the things I would say here is that if somebody just wants to get their tags and so they're not getting pulled over for not having their little yellow sticker, if they just want to get it taken care of, they just come in and pay their bill. If that is a financial burden for them and they fall under this threshold, that's the point at which there may need to be some proof of income. And I think that they can do that fairly easy. I'm not saying that it won't require any work by the Department of Revenue or the counties, but I do think that that's reasonable, and most people who are subject to this will be able to do it quite easily.
Any further discussion on it? Senator Neville.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, colleagues, I appreciate where we've gotten with this amendment, although I would urge a no vote. Here's the reason why. At least we have agreement that this is an egregious fee. I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that my colleagues on this side of the aisle agree that it is a fee that does impact those who can least afford it the most. However, and it's basically a bad piece of legislation in the beginning to actually try to utilize a fee like this to actually promote transportation funding off of a fee, a late vehicle fee like this, especially when there is no real expense to the government. If somebody has their vehicle in their garage, it's not running or whatever else, and they haven't registered it yet, there's not really an expense to government for that. The only expense comes if somebody actually takes that vehicle on the road, and there are major, tremendous fines involved with that. So I'm glad that we've reached agreement that it's probably not a good idea. So to actually say that it's not a good idea for many people, but it's still not a good idea, but let's charge people that make over a certain amount, that in itself is not a good idea. So, colleagues, I urge a no vote on L001.
Senator Todd.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning, colleagues. Happy Monday. March Madness is on its way. Can't help but say Sweet 16 is on its way. But when I heard that this bill was bad legislation, I had to get out of my seat because I was here, I was in the House during that time, and I remember so much of the debate that we had urgent issues before us as a state, that we needed to address them ASAP. The creativity, the work that went into it in a bipartisan manner from the House and the Senate, and being able to put together some solutions. I don't have a whole list of all of the projects that have happened since that bill passed and since we were able to actually put it into practice. But I do know that as I'm driving along Parker Road every morning coming to the Capitol, and I see the project of widening of lanes and lighting, that is a result of the work. As I cross over the bridge by JFK Golf Course, I see that is a project that is attributed to Faster, and that is making it easier for cars to get around. It keeps the traffic moving smoothly. It makes it makes it safer for all people. So widening the shoulders to allow for cars and trucks to pull off away from the traffic is important, because otherwise we know we've all sat in lanes that have been stifled because of an accident and not been able to pull off. Creating passing lanes, rumble strips, intersection improvements, and some resurfacing where it impacts safety. Those are all important components that have taken place as a result of this piece of legislation. So for us to talk about, well, let's just repeal it, let's just go backwards, and attribute it to being bad legislation, to me is disingenuous. One of the sponsors of this bill and of this legislation is in this chamber today. The work that he did, the work that went forward in terms of working in a collaborative manner, was an example of how we get things done the Colorado way. So again, Mr. Chair, I urge a no vote on Senate Bill 196, and I urge you to drive around your districts, drive around the state, and find out what has happened as a result of this project, or of this bill being passed and being able to go forward. Let's not go backwards, let's go forward in Colorado. Thank you.
Senator Todd, a point of clarification. When you referred to March Madness, were you referring to this chamber or the basketball tournament?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A little rock chalk is what I was referring to.
Thank you, Senator Todd. Senator Beth Martinez-Shuminick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Colleagues, I just want to remind everybody that the Equal Protection Clause in the 14th Amendment, which took effect in 1868, says no state shall deny any person equal protection under the law. So if we enacted this, we are in effect discriminating against people who can afford and have a higher income. So I would remind everybody about the 14th Amendment.
Any further discussion on L001? Seeing none, the motion for the body is the adoption of L001. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no? No. Noes have it, and L001 is lost. Any further discussion on Senate Bill 196? Senator Beth Martinez-Shumenick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Colleagues, our cities and our counties may not like this bill. However, we need to start thinking about the people we represent. And these fees could mean the dinner on somebody's table. These fees could mean helping take a child or a person to the doctor. So we're talking about our constituents here and those who cannot afford these fees. It's $25 a month if you forget or you just don't know that your license tags are due. Because every now and then, the county does make a mistake and not send something out to people. After 4 months, $100 to be able to get your license tags when you rely on that vehicle to get you and your family to work and to school is a problem. So for that reason, and in support of the people that I represent, that these fees may not be affordable to, I will be a yes vote.
Senator Crowder.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I really like this Bill 196. I think this is exactly what we need in agriculture. There's a lot of times that we have multiple vehicles that just work toward at harvest, and I think this has been one of the biggest complaints we've had in rural Colorado. So I really urge a yes vote on this. If you stop and look at what this does, it repeals a very aggressive tax needlessly. So I think I'm going to be very supportive of this bill. And I just wanted to thank the sponsor for bringing it forward, and thank you for supporting agriculture. Thank you.
Senator Corn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'm going to tell you two sides of the story here. One, if you live in a border town, it's really not a problem. I remember a couple of years ago, we had Transportation Committee down in Durango. Some of the members commented that they were amazed at how many people from New Mexico were up visiting Durango that day. The fact is, they license their vehicles in New Mexico because it's much cheaper. But what this really does, it affects the working poor. And let me give you a prime example that I hear time after time after time. It's a young father, divorced. He has child support. So he has a choice. He pays the child support or he buys his license plates. Gets $25 a month. If he goes the other direction and pays the license plates and doesn't pay the child support, he loses his driver's license. Costs him $100 to get his driver's license back. So this is kind of a back and forth cycle. They take, if they don't pay the child support, they lose the driver's license. If they pay the child support, they pay the $100 for the late fee. And I know a young man this probably happens to him. He probably loses his license 6 times a year because he's that working poor. And he pays out child support, or he doesn't pay the child support. He has to make that choice. So then he runs the vehicle without a license, expired plate. He gets caught. He's driving without a license. He's got to pay the fee. And all of a sudden, this little $100 fee escalated into $1,000 that it's costing. It's, I think it's very regressive to the working poor. And like I say, my border people have figured out that, one, They can buy their license in New Mexico, pay 75% less, and keep their driver's license. So I think this is a good bill. And just a reminder, this is not only the source of revenue for Faster. My old trailers that I used to pay $15 on, now I pay $79.
Any further, Senator Kerr?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I will not speak of the amendment, which I thought was a really, really good amendment and would have, I think, brought everyone together on this. But I won't talk about that anymore. What I will talk about are roads and bridges. And I'm going to talk about some more roads and bridges, and I'm going to say roads and bridges probably a couple more times, because I don't think we've heard about roads and bridges nearly enough here. Just going through the fiscal note here, and just want to make sure everyone understands when we're talking about roads and bridges and making sure that our bridges are safe to drive over or go under, that our roads are up to speed, pun intended, that I want you to know exactly what this fiscal note says. So the State Highway Fund gets about 60% of this money, counties about 22%, municipalities about 18%. Of this fee revenue, the first $10 is credited to the county government registering a vehicle. The remaining revenue is deposited into the Highway Users Tax Fund for subsequent distribution to the State Highway Fund, counties and municipalities. This bill, as it stands right now, is expected to reduce State Highway Fund revenue from late vehicle registration fee collections by approximately $5 million in this upcoming year, and approximately $10.4 million in the next year and thereafter. State Highway Fund, $5 million reduction next year, $10.4 million the year after. Counties, $1.9 million reduction this year, $3.8 million ongoing after that. Municipalities, $1.5 million reduction. Again, reduction for roads and bridges. Ongoing $3.1 million reduction to the cities where you and I and our constituents live every year, ongoing. Total about $8.4 million reduction. Next year, $17.3 million reduction moving forward throughout our state. Roads and bridges, ladies and gentlemen, roads and bridges. This takes money directly away from roads and bridges.
Any further discussion on 196? Seeing none, the motion for the body is the adoption of Senate Bill 196. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no? No! The ayes have it, and Senate Bill 196 is adopted. Majority Leader Holbert.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move the committee rise and report.
The motion for the body is to rise and report. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? All right, now the ayes have it. We will rise and report.
Senate will come back to order. Senator Cook.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Your committee had a bill under consideration. Will the clerk please read the report?
Mr. President, your committee will basically reports that in consideration the following attached bills being second reading thereof makes the following recommendation on Senate Bill 196 passes second read order of gross placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. Senate Bill 43 laid over until 3/26/18 retaining its place on the calendar.
Senator Cook.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of the report.
The motion for the body is the adoption of the report to the committee of the whole. Are there any no votes? With 34 ayes, or noes, or absent, one excused, the committee of the whole report is adopted. Senate. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Having voted on the prevailing side, I move for the immediate reconsideration of the committee report.
Motion before the body is to move to immediate reconsideration of the report to the Committee of the Whole. This is a recorded vote. Are there any no votes? My bad. This is just a voice vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Ayes have it, and we'll move to immediate reconsideration. Mr. Majority Leader.
John.
Yeah, just say having voted on the prevailing side. I forgot we had a calendar. Just say having voted on the prevailing side, I move for the adoption of the calendar report. Just say I move for the adoption.
Senator Cook.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of the report.
Thank you, Senator Cook. The motion before the body is the adoption of the report. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move a call of the Senate.
Call of Senate has been moved and properly sustained. Will the sergeants please close the doors and not allow any senators to leave? Mr. Carpenter, please call the roll.
Senators Aguilar, Baumgardner, Cook, Corum, Court, Crowder, Donovan, Finberg, Fields, Garcia, Gardner, Guzman, Hill, Holbert, John, Jones, Kagan, Kafalis, Kerr, Lambert, Lumberg, Marble, Martinez Humenick, Moreno, Neville, Priola, Scott, Smallwood, Sonnenberg, Tate, Todd, Williams, Zenzinger. Mr. President.
Here. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the call be raised.
The motion is for the call to be raised. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Ayes have it, and the call will be raised. The motion before the body is the adoption of the report to the Committee of the Whole. There is an amendment on the desk. Mr. Carpenter, would you please read Committee of the Whole Amendment 1 to Senate Bill 196?
Committee of the Whole Amendment 1 to Senate Bill 196. Senator Cook.
Kerr.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move Committee of the Whole Amendment 001.
To the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. After great debate on Senate Bill 196, I think we have shown that there is both a need to adjust the fees that help pay for our roads and bridges, and that there is a fair way of doing it. Committee of the Whole Amendment 1 is that balance between making sure that we have the resources to rebuild our bridges, make sure that they are safe for our constituents to drive over or walk under, and that our roads are of such a condition that transportation can run smoothly throughout the state. And we're also being fair to the people of Colorado who can least afford to do that. So with that, I ask for the adoption of Committee of the Whole Amendment 1.
Is there any further discussion on Committee of the Whole Amendment 1? Senator Lundberg.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, I believe that the chairman got it right initially during second reading, and the dilemma with this is it creates the progressive fee structure according to your income level, which is a very dangerous road, you might say a slippery slope. I don't see appropriateness in this at all. I see the real discussion before us when it comes to the bill is whether or not this penalty is a legitimate penalty or not. And it can be most easily demonstrated with the younger, or with the, not the younger, with the people with the least amount of income. But when you magically cross that $50,000 gross income level on your tax form, that doesn't automatically mean it's a good fee for you. That's why I opposed this amendment initially. It's not a good fee for anybody. It's a penalty that's put in place to simply raise cash, and I find that an offensive policy. If there's a legitimate policy, it's a registration fee, or it's the gas taxes we pay, or I don't want to talk about other legislation, but there's some legislation available that could address this. I think we might have that before us at some point. This is not a good amendment to the Committee of the Whole report. I ask for a no vote.
Senator Court.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, I think there are two issues with this amendment. One is personal responsibility. I think that it's really important that Coloradans take responsibility for doing what's right, for doing what their obligation is. And the obligation of Coloradans is to register their vehicles on time. So if we're really focused on personal responsibility and making certain that people do what their responsibility is, register your vehicle on time, then it is appropriate that there is a consequence if you don't do what you're supposed to do. Now, the other issue at stake is evidently whether or not this should be a regressive or progressive approach. And I believe the sponsors said that they felt previously that this, the idea behind this amendment is regressive. Well, the opposite is progressive. And this takes a progressive attitude toward this fee and says that if you are going to have missed a month or two, you will pay less if you are less able to afford it. So this avoids having a regressive structure and creates a progressive structure and reminds people of their responsibility to do what they are obligated to do under Colorado law. I urge a yes vote.
Senator Neville.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I urge I urge a no vote. almost had me there, my good colleague from Denver. But I did want to address both pieces of my good colleague from Denver's argument. First of all, I will call the first argument the scofflaw argument, since I love that word. The idea that people who do not register their vehicles on time somehow are scofflaws to the law and don't understand their responsibilities under the law. I would take issue that that may happen, but that's not the case usually. Most of these vehicles, we have things that happen in people's lives. Possibly they may have a vehicle that's broken down. They may have multiple vehicles. They may have one that they've taken off the road for a period of time. We have people that actually, you know, I've been told by folks that, hey, I've got this vehicle, but guess what? Right now it's on blocks in my garage, and I'm actually putting a new engine in it, or I'm actually making overhauls. So why should I be required to register it now and then pay, or pay a late vehicle fee just because I'm trying to do the right thing and get this vehicle up and running, make sure that it is correct in all manners for the road, and bring it out there. I want to get it out there as soon as I can, but charging me a late vehicle fee doesn't actually help me get out there and utilize my vehicle and pay those highway user tax fees when I go out and buy gasoline to put in that vehicle. So it actually works against that. To the second part of the argument, here's what I would say. When we have a fee that, in my opinion, and the opinion of many, this legislature may have seen a need for it to basically fund a gap in the budget, and that's what this was, a gap in the budget. We are in a position this year where we have the opportunity with almost $1 billion, and I think we're waiting for the final numbers or the numbers to come in today on the economic estimate. But when we talk about the amount of money here that is involved with this fee to government, I think you'll find that it's a very small amount. It sends a positive note to all people in Colorado that, first of all, we're not going to punish you for doing something that should be the right thing for you to do and what's necessary for you to do for your family. If you do put that vehicle on the road and you act in a manner that is not according to law, you're going to get fined. You're going to get a ticket. You're going to get penalized for that, as you rightfully should. But this is not what we're talking about. We're talking about people that have not put those vehicles back on the road for one reason or another. Could be businesses, too, that have taken a vehicle off the road for some reason. So it only makes sense. And then to basically say that we would look differently at people. Colleagues, the good senator from Adams County made a great comment when she said, there's this little thing that we should always focus on here in the legislature called the equal application of law. So if it's bad for one group, it's probably bad for another group also. It does have a larger impact, of course, on anybody that has lesser income. But that doesn't mean that it's a positive impact on anyone. So when we have an opportunity to make something right, I wouldn't say regressive versus progressive. I would say wrong versus right. I urge a no vote on the committee of the whole amendment.
Senator Kerr.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I think this has been a great debate. I again stand by my assertion that Committee of the Whole Amendment 1 is the fair balance in here to make sure that we are funding our roads and bridges and being fair to as many people throughout Colorado as possible. I would also very much urge my colleagues, when it comes to spending the taxpayers' money, let's be conservative. Let us not spend money we don't have. And I've heard here at this well several times in the last week, Mr. President, that people are talking about a forecast coming up where we're going to be able to spend lots of money. Let's be conservative. Let's not spend money that we have not seen yet, that we do not have yet. Yes, this is Senator Andy Kerr saying that, and I'm sure that I'm reaching.
Will the sergeants please go find the real Senator Kerr?
But I thank you, Mr. President, and I implore this body to please let us not spend money we have not seen yet. Thank you. And vote aye on Committee of the Whole Amendment 1.
Is there any further discussion on Committee of the Whole Amendment 1 to Senate Bill 196? Seeing none, the motion for the body is the adoption of Committee of the Whole Amendment 1 to Senate Bill 196. Are there any no votes? Majority Leader Holbert, Senator Priola, Senator Smallwood, Senator Tate, Senator Lambert, Senator Martinez-Humanic, Senator Gardner, Senator Coram, Senator Neville, Senator Cook, Senator Lundberg, Senator Hill, Senator Marble, Senator Crowder, Senator Baumgardner, Senator Sonnenberg, Senator John. Please add the President. And Senator Scott. With 15 ayes, 19 noes, 0 absent, 1 excused, Committee of the Whole Amendment 1 is lost. Motion before the body is the adoption of the report to the Committee of the Whole. Are there any no votes? Senator Kerr, Senator Guzman, Senator Court, Senator Williams. With 30 ayes, 4 noes, 0 absent, 1 excused, the Committee of the Whole report is adopted. Senate Bill 196 passed on second reading, ordered engrossed and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. Senate Bill 43 laid over till 3/26/18, retaining its place on the calendar. Consideration of governor's appointments. Please add Senator Merrifield to the roll. Consideration of governor's appointments consent calendar. Mr. Carpenter, please read the appointment on the calendar. Appointments.
Member of the State Historical Society Board of Directors for term expiring July 1st, 2020, Marco Antonio Barca of Denver, Colorado, reappointed.
Senator Holbert.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the governor's appointments consent calendar consisting of one member of the State Historical Society Board of Directors.
Is there any discussion? The motion is for the adoption of the governor's appointment listed on the consent calendar. Are there any no votes? With 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 0 excused, the appointments are confirmed. Following persons have been appointed to the State Historical Society Board of Directors. Marco Antonio Barca. Announcements. Senator Lundberg.
Thank you, Mr. President. Very, very brief announcement for appropriations tomorrow. Assuming that we read House Bill 1249 across the desk today, it just passed the House thirds. It will be in approps tomorrow morning, as well as Senate Bill 108, in addition to those that are listed in the calendar.
Senator Baumgardner and Todd were next, I believe.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask for a moment of personal privilege.
Granted to both of you.
Thank you. Members, this morning we are going to do a tribute for the Colorado aerospace industry. So the Colorado Senate convened in the second regular session of the 61st General Assembly hereby extends heartiest congratulations and commendations to the Colorado aerospace industry. The Colorado aerospace industry has significantly benefited the technological and scientific advances in our nation and the rest of the world. The aerospace industry supports billions of dollars in economic activity and 190,000 public and private sector jobs across the state of Colorado, including partnerships with all colleges, universities, and the military. In recognition of the aerospace industry in Colorado, we designate the third Monday in March as Colorado Aerospace Day and express our most sincere and deepest appreciation to the men and women contributing to this sector. On request of Senator Nancy Todd and Senator Andy Baumgardner, given this 19th day of March 2018, State Capitol, Denver, Colorado, signed by Kevin J. Grantham, President of the Senate.
Senator Todd.
Thank you, Mr. President. And it is great to see the Capitol filled with aerospace personnel and different companies that are with us all over the first floor. We invite you to come down and join them for lunch today. And at 1:15, there will be a group photo available on the West Capitol steps. If it's nice enough, we might be outdoors. If not, we'll be indoors, but they will be providing lunch for everyone. And there will be a proclamation from the governor to declare that the third Monday of March will forever be Aerospace Day in Colorado for the whole state. The reason this whole Colorado Aerospace Day is here and why it is so important is to really highlight Colorado's role in space and all the ways it benefits life on Earth. GPS, we use it every day with our phones, weather, scientific advances, and so very much more. So Colorado is the #1 state per capita in the country for private aerospace employment. 26,620 Coloradans are directly employed in the private sector aerospace jobs, and another 28,810 are employed in military aerospace jobs, with the entire cluster supporting a total of 190,000 jobs in Colorado, with a payroll exceeding $3.3 billion. B is in billion dollars. And Colorado is home to the nation's top aerospace companies that are including such companies as Ball Aerospace, Boeing Digital Globe, Lockheed Martin Space, Northrop Grumman, Sierra Nevada Corporation, Teledyne, Brown Engineering, United Launch Alliance, and close to 500 additional companies that support the aerospace sector by developing products including spacecraft, launch vehicles, satellites, command and control software, sensors, and navigation operations. And we've seen that Colorado's presence at many of the launches in Florida has been very present. In fact, when I went down a couple of years ago, there were more people from Colorado than there were from Florida, and a couple of Florida legislators said, "Oh my gosh, how did you get so many people here from Colorado?" And I said, "We support aerospace in Colorado. That's why we're here." Colorado is strategic location and national space cyber activity with 5 key military commands: North American Aerospace Defenses Command, NORAD, the United States Northern Command, the U.S. Strategic Command, Joint Function Component Command for Space, Missile Warning Center, the United States Air Force Space Command, and the U.S. Army Space and Missile Defense Command, Army Forces Strategic Command, and 3 space-related United States Air Force bases, Buckley, Peterson, and Schriever. The United States Air Force Academy, along with Colorado's colleges and universities, including the University of Colorado Boulder, the University of Colorado, Colorado Springs, Colorado School of Mines, Colorado State University, Metropolitan State University of Denver, University of Denver, Colorado, Mesa University, and Fort Lewis College provide access to world-class aerospace-related degrees and offer aerospace companies one of the country's most educated workforces. In addition to that, the collaboration that takes place with our higher ed and our K-12 system is getting stronger and stronger every year by that work, by integrating within our high schools as well. Various organizations are key to Colorado's prominence in aerospace, including the Colorado Space Coalition, a group of industry stakeholders working to make Colorado a center of excellence for aerospace, and the Colorado Space Business Roundtable, working to bring together aerospace stakeholders from the industry, government, and academia for roundtable discussion and business development, and to encourage grassroots citizen participation in aerospace issues and Colorado chapter of Citizens for Space Exploration. Partnership with the Colorado Business Roundtable, whose mission is to promote better understanding of aerospace and its importance in our economy and daily lives, as well as promoting the importance of human space exploration, who all together form the Colorado chapter of the Aerospace States Association, a nonpartisan organization of lieutenant governors and associate members from aerospace organizations and academia who represent states' interests in federal aerospace and aviation policy development and manufacturers. EDGE, a statewide state manufacturing assistance center that encourages the strength and competitiveness of Colorado manufacturers by providing on-site technical assistance through coaching, training, and consulting, and collaboration-focused industry programs and leveraging government, university, and economic development partnerships. These are all such important components. As you can see, there's a wide spectrum of involvement, of partnerships, of being able to make Colorado as well known for our aerospace adventures and technology and work. The summer camps that are offered for our students to be able to participate and start learning early on and growing the future. So those folks like my good friend that is here with Lockheed Martin, and many of the others and their children and all of our children and grandchildren will have those opportunities to grow and learn more and more about aerospace and the impact. This is important for our economy because the longer and the stronger we are as a state, the more it is a message that sends to Washington, the more it sends to other states that we are alive and well here in Colorado for aerospace. And so, Mr. President, we have many folks here in the Capitol visiting us. We actually have an astronaut from outer space who has come all the way to Earth to join us today. And so I am going to ask that all of our guests, without me breaking the rules and naming them all by names, I've named their companies, but I'm going to ask that all of our aerospace friends that are in the Capitol, if you will please stand and let us recognize you for your great contribution to Colorado. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Sonnenberg.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request a moment of personal privilege.
Granted.
Members, it's my pleasure to have in the chamber today 4 of my 6 grandchildren and 1 of my 4 children, my daughter Afton, her kids Cambry, Kaylin, and Caleb, and then her nephew, my other daughter's son, Seth. Would you please help me welcome them to the Capitol today?
Senator Court.
Thank you, Mr. President. A moment of personal privilege, please.
Granted.
Thank you. I'd like to introduce a school group from my district, the students from Montclair School of Academics and Enrichment. I believe they're right there. Is that you? Is that you? Where are you? Are you here? Oh, darn. Oh, well, there's some other students here. Let's welcome them.
Senators Crowder and Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. President. As many of you know, Senator Crowder and I were excused on Friday to attend the commissioning of the USS Colorado, a fast attack submarine, the most advanced, most technologically advanced ship in the United States Navy. It was an exciting event. For those of you who ask, no, that lobster dinner was not paid for by the taxpayers, but rather by the generosity of Coloradans who wanted to support that event and to welcome the captain and crew and to make them a part of our Colorado family. It was a great event, and Senator Crowder has a couple of presentations to make.
Senator Crowder.
Thank you, Mr. President. You know, the Colorado delegation was very well represented there. Governor Hickenlooper spoke, Senator Michael Bennet, Senator Cory Gardner, as well as others. And what I'd like to do is present a very small token of gratitude from myself, Senator Gardner, and Representative Liston, who were there. And what we have is a book of U.S. Colorado with a small pen. And I would like to present one to the Senate President as well as the Minority Leader. And I realize it's a small token, but I think it was a very proud day for Colorado. And, you know, the hearts and souls of all Coloradans were there that day. And it was cold out there, I'll tell you. 41 degrees, but that wind off that ocean really made it a struggle. But, and it was quite an event. And, you know, it's just something I thought that we just take this opportunity to report to you. you know, how well it went. And with that, Mr. President, I'd like to make this presentation to the Senate President. There, sir. Thank you, Senator. And what this is basically the crest of the USS Colorado with the 4 ships and boats that Colorado is on the back. And I'd like to make this presentation to the Assistant Minority Leader. Thank you, Mr. Garcia. And thank you all very much.
Thank you all.
Senator Tate.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just an announcement on today's Senate Business and Labor Committee. House Bill 1097 will be heard last as opposed to second. So House Bill 1097 will be at the end of the Business Committee calendar. Thanks.
Senator Martinez-Humenick.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to make an announcement that for local government tomorrow, we were supposed to hear Senate Bill 190 for action only, and we are going to be laying it over a week. So local government will not be meeting tomorrow.
Senator Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request a moment of personal privilege.
Granted.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, the public holds us, elected officials, to a higher moral and ethical standard. They should. The public votes for us. They place their trust and confidence in us. And when we breach that trust through our actions or conduct, we should do the appropriate thing and resign. In absence of this, we, the members of the Senate Democratic Caucus, ask that the Senate resolution we prepared and submitted for introduction on February 13th, 2018, entitled Concerning the Expulsion of the Senator from Northwestern Colorado for Sexual Harassment of a Legislative Employee, be promptly introduced and brought to the floor for the Senate for debate. Thank you, Mr. President.
Any further announcements? Message from the House.
The House has passed in third reading, transmitted to Revised Statutes, House Bill 1259, 1249. Amended as printed in the House Journal, March 16, 2018. The House has passed in third reading, returns here with Senate Bill 173, 131, 90, 98. The House has passed in third reading and transmitted to Revised Statutes, Senate Bill 82, 95, 135. Amended as printed in the House Journal, March 16, 2018.
Message from the Reviser.
We herewith transmit without comment as amended House Bill 1249 and 1259, without comment as amended Senate Bill 82, 95, and 135.
Signing of bills.
The President has signed Senate Bill 28.
Any further announcements? Seeing none, Mr. Assistant Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that we recess the Senate until 1:30 p.m. today.
And just by way of note, colleagues, that will be for reading bills across the desk, so you don't need to be back for that. The motion for the body is to recess until 1:30 p.m. today. All those in favor say aye. All opposed, no. The ayes have it, and we will be in recess.